I'd like to show you the model through one of the two ways you can interact with it. Hal mentioned you can either download it to your system or you can use it through this web-based interface. So we launched this today, and you can reach it by going to energypolicy.solutions in your browser. And you'll find yourself on this landing page where you can learn more to get to documentation, or you can hit Enter Simulator to go in and actually use the model. So it's running on the server, and it allows you to configure your policy options in real time. On the right, you see the output graph. This here is the business as usual case with the new scenario, the one we're designing, overlaid right on top of it because we haven't added any policies yet. You'll also see we've put on the graph this emissions target for 2025, and that's the one that the U.S. agreed to in the bilateral agreement with China back in late 2014. On the left, you see a number of different categories here named for sectors, as well as cross-sector and R&D. These are groups of policies. For example, if we expand the cross-sector menu, you get things like the carbon tax and existing subsidies, which you can set separately by fuel type or energy source, fuel taxes, and so forth. If you click on one, like carbon tax, it pulls up the policy pane for that policy. On the top, you have a slider. You can set the carbon tax to anything you like, between $0 and $100 per metric ton, CO2 equivalent. Every policy has a short description, which is helpful because many people might not know what a given policy is, and just a few sentences could be a good reminder. It all has an implementation schedule, so it's not that you get the carbon tax you set, bam, in the first year of the model run. Rather, it phases in linearly from 2016 to 2030. That's the default for the web application. If you download the full version of the model, you can actually set any implementation schedule you want. So you can phase it in over whichever years at whatever rate you want to simulate. We also include guidance for setting values. This is because many people might not know what makes a low carbon tax, what's a high one, what's a medium one. So we try to cite something that gives some sense of magnitude. In this case, we mention the social cost of carbon estimates for 2030 range from 17 to 79 based on choice of discount rate. And lastly, for every policy, we have links. One is how to design the policy. For every policy, we have written a description because a policymaker needs more than just a number, some guidance on exactly what design principles, what they should be thinking about when they're writing a policy like this. And every one of them has its own write-up like that, and also a link to a technical description of how it's done in the model. If we dial this up to something like $50 per ton, you can see that in real time this animates, and our new scenario in purple diverges from the business as usual scenario there in black. And I'm going to hit OK. And you can see it's added the policy to this list of policy settings in the box. As we add more and more policies to a package, they'll all be listed here, so you can see at a glance what's included in your own package. We've included a few packages to get you started. This button opens the comparisons pane that shows both some included reference scenarios. These are some that Hal showed, the energy innovation recommended policies, the clean power plan policies. We also put in a CO2 minimizing set. That's whatever settings of the levers in the web app will achieve the lowest CO2e emissions. The limits of these levers are based on international best practice, and this is sort of setting the strongest setting for every single policy that is effective. So if we hit OK, it'll add all of these curves to the graph. And we can see that our new scenario, which is just a carbon tax, already is reducing emissions more than a scenario that just narrowly meets the clean power plan requirements, but is not that close yet to meeting the 2025 emissions target. And then this one should really be thought of as more of a lower bound rather than a politically realistic scenario for the CO2e minimizing set. Another important note is that this is just one of many graph types. So you can look at all kinds of things you're interested in, for example, electricity output by type, and you can see coal, natural gas, nuclear, and so on. all as stacked areas. You can look at financial, you can look at the monetized public health and climate benefits, and so on. The web application has this large but limited set of outputs, and if you download the full version, you can use any variable in the whole model as your output. There's a dual graph feature, so if you're trying to design a scenario that optimizes two things at once, you can keep them both on screen while you play with the levers and figure out what it does. We also have sort of a set of social sharing features. So as you may have seen when I pulled open the comparisons pane, there's a My Scenarios section where you can save your own custom scenarios. And if you have an account, you save them to the cloud, and you can share them then with friends and colleagues and others. Just enter email addresses, any comments you want, and it'll shoot them an email with a customized link that takes them right into the scenario, and then they can edit it themselves, they can save it to their own account, and so forth. There's a lot of features here, more than I can cover, but fortunately there's full documentation online. We have a tutorial for the online interface, and we have downloaded installation of the full model and numerous other pages that explain everything here. So we want this to be open and accessible and as easy to use as is possible, given the need to be able to analyze a large number of policies. That's a quick overview of the web app interface, and perhaps it'll be of use to some of you. energypolicy.solutions is the URL.